you're one, and then you just get tapped to go to participate in this show. And the last time we were here in August, you weren't able to talk about it. It had already been shot and recorded. Okay.
So 2 years ago, I get back from Vegas. It was in the summer because it was COVID, right? And the producer called me and she's like, "Do you remember me?" And I don't know if I've told you on the prior episode, like I learned a long time ago from Tony when the Ellen DeGeneres show called me back in Connecticut, and I didn't get it, and I called Tony, and he said, "Well, how did you sound?" And I said, "Oh, I sound good." He said, "No, did you sound like Perky?" And I said, "I don't know." He goes, "You didn't get it." I said, "Well, how do you know?" He goes, "You got a phone interview." He said, "Whoever called you had you on speaker." He said, "Don't worry, I'm going to get you on the show." Next day, cold pizza. I was on that. And
right.
He said, "Listen to me.
Their first ever episode.
You got to just sound like you just hit the lotto." So I said, "Okay." So when I get back from Vegas, I see this thing to apply for it. But they called me, and she's like, "Hey, do you remember me from this show?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "All right." So I told her everything I told you, from bankrupt to Cars to the struggle. She's like, "What do you think about having Tony on the show?" I said, "Please put that SOB on the show so I can beat his ass once and forever." I said I'd love him to death. And she loved it. And I knew what they wanted because Tony had always told me, I know who you are as a friend, but TV's different. So, not that I was going to dog him or anything. So I went through all the interviews and I got it. And I was nervous, like who I was going against, because I don't have the best self-confidence in myself. So when winning the pizza, I still don't. It's just something I struggle with sometimes. I think the people that are looking for me or don't think I can do it help my self-confidence, because I have it, but I got to dig deep. I can't get sucked into not.
Right.
So when I went out there, and I saw one of the girls I was competing against.
There's the picture.
Oh yeah, that's Leah. She's absolutely amazing. In fact, she gave me the peppadews to win in Vegas. She brought them from California. Amazing pizzaiola. And that's Ali. He has a place in San Francisco, and he's amazing.
I mean, he just looks like the quintessential Italian.
He's not Italian.
He's not even Italian?
No, he's
What
not.
is he? Really?
Mm-hmm.
He looks Italian, doesn't he?
So we go out there, and we're in this like bougie hotel, right? And
Right.
He does like this hotel was just like, it wasn't even a regular hotel. So we go to the competition, and they keep you in a room by yourself, no problem. And then they see who you're going against, and you got to do all this filming. So they wouldn't tell us who the host of the show was. It was a surprise. So right before we go through the first dry run, they're like, "It's Wells Adams." I'm like, "Who the hell is Wells Adams?" He was on The Bachelorette, and he won Worst Cooks in America. Now, unlike the F Word, this show is taped. Now, I've done a number of shows where I watch the show and go, they didn't put anything on I said. So I knew, like, okay, we got to be like alive. We got to be fun. Because what if there's 9 episodes and they go, "You know what? That episode sucked. We're going to 8. The World Pizza Champions episode is not going to be on." Right? They could have done that because it wasn't live. So we go out there, and these two were like, and I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" So I'm like, "Hey, Wells, I heard you can't boil water. How you the host of the show?"
They're not saying anything, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm like,
they're not being animate.
I'm gonna be a smartass. That's gonna be my angle for this whole show. And he's like, "Well, Joe, I'm not only your host, I'm one of your judges." I'm like, I lost. In my head, I'm like, okay, there's no way that you just, and I was kidding around with him. So I'm like, okay, you have a good pizza, but let's take the approach of being like, and I love the camera. I'm not camera shy. So it was fun for me. So when we go in the back, they didn't put it on, but I was like, "Hey guys, let's make a bet. Whoever wins, the other two have to fly out there. So why don't you guys book your tickets to Alabama?"
So fly out to see the person who wins.
Help them. So the producers were loving it. They were filming us everywhere. So Ali is over in the corner, right? And he's like, not praying, but he's like, "Please don't let them talk to me as I'm making my pizza." So I'm like, "Leah," I'm like, "We got to bust them out there." She's like, "Let's do it." So we go out there, and it was a beautiful setup. It's just amazing, to be in the industry and to go see what they put out there in a room for a show.
3 separate kitchens, essentially, right?
3 ovens.
Yeah.
It's like over $250,000 in that room,
Wow.
just in ovens. So I'm busting his chops, and she's busting his chops, and we're just going at it. And I'm like, Leah, get me to this, get me that, and she's loving it. She's getting it for me, and we're having fun, you know. So the first round comes up, and I made the Valentina, and I got one vote from one judge. The other judge said it was too sweet. And then Wells, of course, he didn't vote for me. So then the second round, I did what's called the Carlucci, you know. So we're doing it, and we do another walkthrough. Here's your fridge. Here's where your items are. Now, to this day, I could have sworn that the second shelf to the left was the prosciutto. Apparently, the prosciutto was in the back and it was in the ham, you know. It was ham. So I'm like talking so much that I noticed the bacon overcooks. I'm like, I didn't realize, because I hadn't used that oven yet. That oven was not in my new store yet, the Pizza Master, what I had.
Okay.
So I'm like, shit, I did this burnt bacon. I'm like, what am I doing, you know? And you have to make 5 pizzas in 30 minutes.
So the clock is ticking.
And I'm talking, you could tell, like, if you watch,
Yeah.
like I talked a lot more. They just cut it a lot out. So it was like 1 minute left, and I go over and I just grab it, and I start putting it on, and the one girl that like got me there, she's like, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Shit." And there's another one. I'm like, "I got to go back." She's like, "Nope, time's up." I'm like, "What?" So I had a choice of putting nothing on it or putting ham. So the producer says to me, the one that got me on, "Joe, just tell him it's prosciutto." And I said in my head, "He's fucking Italian. Are you kidding me?" In my head. So I'm like, what do I do when I get up there? Because A, they would cut it out. B, if I throw her under the bus like that, not that that would matter that much, but why would I do that to her when she's going to get me on another show in a year or two, probably, when she does something else? So I said in my head, just eat the crow. So he says, "Joe, this is not prosciutto. It's ham." And I didn't say anything other than,
You tried to have like a surprised look on your face.
yeah. And then because the way the show was built, it wasn't like Chopped,
Mm-hmm.
where the next judge was like, "Well, I actually like it better." Right? Now, Wells Adams. So the first judge doesn't vote for me. And then the guy in the middle was a bread guy from New York, which I got to tell you a story after we were done. He's like, comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I got to get your number, man. That was great dough." He's like, "We got to, do something together." And I'm like, "You didn't even vote for me. How the hell do you want me to break bread with you? I mean, you're brilliant at what you do, but you can't even vote for me." So they make it suspenseful where they had the first 2 judges split.
Yeah.
And then Wells Adams went for one of them. So they had a group of people in the back of a board of 8. And if they would have voted for Leah, it would have counted as 2 votes. But they voted for Ali. So, after the show, I called Tony. And he's like, "Damn." And, I told him what happened. He's like, "Yeah, don't worry about it." And I had really believed.
But when you were pulling the ham out, you knew it was ham?
No,
Or
I
you were
didn't even look.
Really?
I was just running my mouth, right?
Okay.
So the next day, they call you in for a 3-hour interview, and you got to pretend that you didn't go yet.
Oh, so they're going to do all the interview shots.
Mm-hmm. And then
That's how they do that.
And then after an hour, they're like, "Okay, talk to us how you feel." So I thought they were going to put some of this stuff on because I thought it was like just great TV footage. They're like, "How do you feel?" And I'm like, "I feel great." They're like, "You do? You just lost." And I'm like, "Have you ever heard of Michael Jordan, Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier?"
They lost too.
They lost. You think I'm going to get knocked down? And then they're like, "What do you think of the judges?" I'm like, Stevie Wonder could have seen better than them that my dough was better than everybody. Like, I was just like, my lines were like, I don't know where I was coming from. I'm like, "What's the name of the show?"
You didn't pre-script any of those lines?
Nothing.
Okay.
I thought about what I was going to say, but I didn't know the questions. They're like, "What's the name?" I said, "What's the name of the show?" "Best in Dough." I had the best dough. I said, "Did you see Ali's dough?" No one said it was our class and he had to make a star. I said, "Leah's looks like a frozen dough." And I text them all this. I said, "Hey guys, if they put, because we're good friends, we have a group chat."
I'm going to say this, right? Or I said this is what you're telling them?
I said, I just gonna let you know,
I
kidding
dogged
around.
you,
Yeah, LOL.
Yeah.
Um, but I said, yeah, I'm happy for him, but every dog has their day. And these guys see me as like Joe Carlucci, and I don't see myself as that. Like the competitors I went against, they even the producers, like they thought very highly of you. They were like, it's Joe Carlucci, he's a world pizza champion. I felt like I let Tony down a little, but after talking to him, he's the first person I called.